We are your sensational hosts, Gilsey and Drusilla. Welcome to Moon Moment, the podcast where we discuss the Sailormoon canon for what we affectionately call, you guessed it, Moon Moments.
Moments that we feel exemplify what Sailormoon stands for and represents. Now, let's go ahead and jump in. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. We're discussing episodes 33 through 37. And we've got major plot developments happening this week, folks. To start off, Zoisite impersonates Sailor Moon in order to lure out Tuxedo Common, while Kunzite takes care of the Senshi. And they would have gotten away with it, too, if it wasn't for that meddling Sailor V. Sailor Venus. That's right, Minako Aino has finally arrived. In our next two episodes, Usagi and Mamoru are captured by Zoisite, and the Senshi arrived just in time to see Usagi revealed as the Moon Princess. I guess they never watched the intro, or the credits. Tuxedo Common takes an ice shard for her, though. Maybe? I honestly don't know. The animation makes it a little unclear. But Usagi's tears over him help form the Silver Crystal, or the Ginzu Ishu, if you're feeling fancy. Next up, Minako tries to cheer up Usagi by taking her to get a haircut. Blasphemy! Thankfully, the universe isn't having it either and sends a Yoma to stop that nonsense. Also, Tuxedo Common is evil now? Yeah, I forgot to mention he got by the Dark Kingdom. He's brainwashed now, but don't worry, it won't be the last time this happens. Finally, Kunzite sets up a How to Be a Princess seminar in order to lure in Sailor Moon. And you know what? It works. But of course, Sailor Moon is able to triumph over evil like she always does. So let's get to our moon moments, of which there are quite a few this week. Gilsey, would you like to start?
So, right off the bat, the first episode where Sailor V appears, I actually found a moon moment. It was when the imposter Sailor Moon was dangling, and it was very clearly a trap, and everyone was saying, this is a trap, and Usagi is like, despite the fact that I actually have the quote written down, like, she says, I don't care if it's a trap, I can't ignore someone in danger, even if she is my imposter. And I just felt that really exemplified Usagi coming into, like, she's already growing into being a Sailor Guardian, and she's putting aside the fact that, yes, this could be a trap, but the potential of it not being a trap and having someone genuinely needing help outweighs the danger that it would impose on herself. And I thought that it was really, really great, because everyone else was saying, no, Usagi, like, what if this fails? Like, what if this is a bad thing? And Usagi's just like, I don't care. Like, this is a person that's in trouble, and I need to help her. What do you think?
I can't believe that I didn't put that as a moon moment, now that you're laying it out. Because I remember exactly what part you're talking about. I don't know. I completely glossed over the fact that I guess maybe I had looked at it sort of Usagi's being selfish in a way, because I think she makes some sort of comment about how, she's the original Sailor Moon, and what is this imposter doing, and, like, we need to, I don't think she says, we need to teach her a lesson, but it has that same sort of feel, and I think I was sort of thinking about that when she said that, but no, I think you're absolutely right. I think this is a moon moment. We've had moon moments that may have not been the, smart thing to do in the moment, so her, even though they know it's a trap, going in to try and save this imposter that they know nothing about, it may not be the smartest move. I think, yes, you're absolutely right. This is a moon moment.
Because even later in the episode when everyone's fighting, even Tuxedo Mask hesitates to kind of jump in and save the imposter, because he's like, what if this is a trap? He still does it, which I also think is really great. But what makes this particular scene a moon moment is that Usagi has been kind of pushing against being a Sailor Scout and her duties as a guardian. And yes, she jumps in to help her friends, but I think this is one of the first instances where she adamantly puts her foot down for someone that she, like a stranger that she's never talked to or interacted with. And previously she has interacted with the other people that she's saved. And she's like, no, we need to save this person that's in danger. Like, they're in danger. We need to help them.
Yeah. I don't have really anything else for this episode. I did not have a moon moment for it. Something that I do have, though, a really subtle thing that the show did. The scouts are trapped. They're not going anywhere. There are storm clouds brewing. Tuxedo Mask is going to have to give up the rainbow crystals in order to save the girls. But then the show cuts back to the same establishing shot it did with the storm, and you see the storm clouds dissipating. And the sun is starting to set, and so you have this orange glow across the sky. And it's such a subtle reference to Sailor Venus is here and she's gonna save the day.
Oh, I didn't even notice that. That's so cool.
Yeah, this is definitely the first time that I noticed that scene. But it is it's a subtle foreshadowing, I guess. And it was just great. I loved it.
Yeah, this episode, really, I didn't have too much else to note except for that moon moment. My notes say, there's so much gay! Exclamation point, exclamation point. Because of that whole relationship with Kunzite and, I'm already blanking on his name, Zoisite.
Zoisite.
Yes. Him. And when, is this the same episode? No. I'm already referencing when Zoisite dies, and they're just, like, in each other's arms, and he's like, I just am so glad to be dying, at least in your arms. And I was like, why am I tearing up?
And the amazing thing about it is that their relationship is a pure anime thing. They are not together in the manga or Crystal. It is a pure creation of the anime, and so it's so awesome to see that, in the early 90s. And if you really love that scene, I recommend watching the Viz dub, because they just do some subtle dialogue changes. A lot of their interactions, I think you could argue, oh, well, obviously Zoisite is the one in love, but Kunzite isn't in love with him. It's not really a gay relationship, it's just unrequited love on Zoisite's part. But the Viz dub makes it very clear, no, they love each other. Kunzite is heartbroken that Zoisite is dead, and that's all there is to it.
Yes!
Love is love.
I was legit, like, my eyes were misty. I was like, oh, I know they're, like, the evil villains, but this is so beautiful. That, or
we're also jumping ahead, but it's so brutal how Zoisite dies, too. It just gets blasted by Beryl, and then Beryl's like, Kunzite, get rid of that trash. And it's like, oh,
I was like, it was a really quick way to die after she's been threatening to kill Zoisite off. But I was like, dang, that took, 2 seconds, and now dead body, okay, clear it out. What about the next episode? Did you have any other moments?
The first part of the two-parter episode? I did, actually. I have a definite moon moment this episode, and I have a potential moon moment. My definite moon moment is Usagi seeing Mamoru in the street and feeling like something's up, and then seeing that she has blood on her hand from where she slapped him on the back. And she follows him because she wants to know, what's going on? Is he okay? Even though, as we've established, they don't really like each other. But she follows him, and even after he catches her in the alleyway, and I said, you're hurt, tell me what's going on, and he's like, just go. And then when he gets captured with Usagi, and he realizes she's been captured too, he says something like, why were you following me? Why didn't you just go? And she says, I couldn't help it. And I think that's my moon moment. The fact that she doesn't really like Mamoru. Her only kind of connection to him is the fact that he's dating Ray. But something was weird, and he was bleeding, and so she wanted to make sure he was okay. and he tried to, I don't know, scare her off. Maybe not. That's not really a great way to phrase it. But he tried to warn her off, but despite being warned off, she just stuck with it. And she's like, no, I want to, what's going on? You know, are you okay? So that was my moon moment.
Yeah, I noted that down. I actually put it as a mini moment because it was kind of like Mamoru was also protecting Usagi, which they do not like each other. So I was like, oh my gosh, the enemy? Is this an enemies to, which it is, it's an enemies to lovers trope. But the beginning of the enemies to lovers, I think there's this whole Tumblr post that's like, oh, what if your enemy showed up on your doorstep bleeding, and you're the hero? What do you do? So I was thinking about that as I was watching this episode. I think I put it as a mini moment because, I don't know, I think it just keeps going back to the whole duty versus, like, being a decent person kind of thing. If I saw someone bleeding, I'd be like, I guess if the person wasn't, I don't know, like an absolute, okay, maybe they are jerks to each other, but if I saw that someone was bleeding and their blood was, like, quite literally on my hands, I'd be like, yo, you should get that checked out. Like, maybe go into a hospital or go into the car. Like, I will drive you to the hospital myself. Like, you're literally bleeding. Let me help you. But I think because Usagi keeps going and following Mamoru, I think that would push it to a moon moment. Because I don't know, I think she could have easily given up, right? And been like, okay, well, he says he's fine. I guess that's okay. And then checked up on him later. But I think because she keeps following him, and also, like, even throughout, she's like, oh my gosh, he's defending me. Is he okay? I think I would agree that this is a moon moment.
I wonder if the blood also changes things. Because if he had just been acting weird, I don't think she would have followed him. I think she would have just said, he's acting weird. Okay, I gotta go meet up with the girls. I'm already late. And I think that's all that would have been it. I think the only reason she follows him so tenaciously is because of the blood. Because he is injured and he does not appear to be going to the hospital. So I think that probably changes things a little bit. I wonder if, because I don't know if this is the cynic in me saying this, but I feel like humans don't want to get involved in things unless they have to. If you see someone acting oddly, I don't know if your first instinct would be to get involved, because it could just be a whole big thing and that you now have to deal with. And, I mean, that does sound very cynical when I say it.
It's very true, especially when it comes to, I forgot what the term is, but when there are spectators to an incident, there are more likely to be, like, people recording and stuff than people actually going out to help whatever person that is injured in this incident. And I think that also goes for, like attacks on people. Like, if you see someone being attacked, most people's instinct isn't to jump in or even, like, call 911. I think most people's first instinct is to pull out their phone and start recording because it's involving but not directly, like, putting yourself in harm's way, which I think what you said is very valid. Like, a lot of people, I think, generally, I'm not going to say, like, this is one person in particular. I think in general people want to help but also don't want to put themselves in harm's way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think this goes back to something we said in, our second episode or our third episode, but we were talking about if you have someone who is, I think the example I used was, you're on the bus and there's someone spouting crazy, stupid, racist nonsense at a particular person on the bus. Like, what would you do? Do you just sit there and think, oh, he's gonna get off at the next stop? Or I always gender terrible people as he. I guess that says something about myself. But do you just hope that this person gets off at the next stop, or do you step in and say something? And I also think, I think we're more likely to step in and do something when there is a group. Like, if the bus is pretty full, I think if you see one person step forward, then you're more likely to step forward as well. It doesn't feel like you're lost at sea so much. You have someone backing you up. But, I mean, it's always that question, right? Like, what would you do in this situation? I mean, wasn't there like a
it
TV
was called
show
What Would You Do?
Yeah, and I mean, you always want to think that, no, I would step in and I would say something, but it's always, when you're faced in that situation, you never know what you're going to do. When you hear about things happening, like all of the horrible rash of, like Asian grannies getting beaten down in the street, and it's like people just standing by and watching, that's like, what the hell is wrong with you? It's one thing if some guy is spouting gendering to guys again. Sorry to any male listeners that we have. But it's one thing if someone is brandishing a knife very, like, casually and saying all these terrible things, but it's not threatening a specific person. Like, it's one thing to just stay away from that. But if you're just walking by and a bunch of guys just start beating on an old lady and you just don't do anything about it, like, part of me understands the need to record because you're getting it on film and you can show it to the police or the authorities or whatever and say, boom, I've got these guys on tape. But it's also, I don't know, the need to actually, like, my instinct, and maybe this is because I'm old.
You're not
my
old.
instinct would not be to pull out my phone. I would just, I don't know, I grew up with a lot of cousins, and we were very physical, and my instinct would be to just throw myself into the middle of it, and I am at a substantial amount of weight at this point, thanks to the pandemic, and so I'm pretty sure that I'd at least knock one off balance. Maybe I'd get a strike if I hit it just right. But that's the thing, like, you always want to think that you would step in, but you never know until you're tested. And I think it's also, the kind of person, like Usagi is that kind of person who will just step in. If she thinks something is wrong, she will just, I feel like she wouldn't give up until she figured out what was wrong. And that's exactly what we see here. Maybe if she hadn't seen the blood, she would have just said to herself, he's acting weird, whatever, he's Mamoru, I don't have time for this, I'm already late for a meeting, Ray is gonna kill me. But she saw the blood, and she's going after him. And continues to go after him until he tells her what's wrong, and they get captured, so he doesn't have the opportunity to do that. Not that he would have. He wouldn't have said, I got injured in a fight between some Dark Kingdom dude impersonating Sailormoon, because I am Tuxedo Common. But
well, this is the first episode all the identities are revealed, right? So all the Sailor Scouts know who they all are. Usagi now knows who Tuxedo Mask is Mamoru, and likewise, Mamoru knows that Usagi is Sailormoon.
Yep, everyone knows who everyone is. And at the end of the episode, we will also know additional identities to everyone. Or not I guess technically everyone. But specifically
Moon Princess.
Usagi and Mamoru. Yeah. I did have maybe a mini moon moment in this, or maybe a moon moment in this. I wasn't sure, because this goes back to something I said in the episode description of how the way the animation is confuses me. Because when I was young, I assumed that Zoisite was shooting that ice shard at Sailormoon, and Tuxedo Common was jumping in front of it to protect her. I just assumed that's what it was. I didn't think it was very clear back then. He's a hero, and he's like the male protagonist, and he's gonna jump in front to save the damsel. But upon this rewatch, I don't know if that's what happened. I don't know if that ice shard was aimed at Sailormoon, or if it was aimed at Mamoru, or Tuxedo Common. And it's showing Usagi realizing that, like, her turning is not her turning because she realizes that the ice shard is coming up behind her. It's she's turning because it has been a sneak attack, and Tuxedo Common has been stabbed, and she's reacting to that. So I really don't know. I feel like most of the fandom just falls into, oh, well, it was going for Sailor Moon, and Tuxedo Common threw himself in front of it. But the position that they're standing makes me question that, because he's in front of her, and I don't know. Anyway, so my maybe moon moment was him throwing himself in front of the ice shard. But since I can't definitively say that that's what happened, I don't know if I can really truly call this a moon moment.
See, I don't know. I was under the assumption that he threw himself in front of Sailor Moon in order to save her, because he's all like, oh, I'm the protector of the Sailor Guardians.
They don't need protection to Tuxedo Common. They got this under control. Mostly, sometimes.
Most of the time. But now that you bring it up, I don't know now. Because you're right, he was standing in front of Sailor Moon.
Mm-hmm. And it clearly shows that the ice shard is behind them. Like, because you see, I think Zoisite is in the foreground, and you see his hand sort of do some kind of motion, and then you see the shard kind of appear. And so it's clearly behind them. If it was going for Sailor Moon, Tuxedo Common would have had to know it was happening and then run behind her in order to take the hit. But they're also not directly, like, Sailor Moon is behind Tuxedo Common, but she's not directly behind him. She's, like, off to the side. Yeah. So I could see it going for Tuxedo Common, and her turning is, like, her reacting to it as it goes by her into him. And plus, Zoisite had already said, it doesn't matter what Beryl says, I'm killing Tuxedo Common.
Yeah.
I could see him just straight up going for Tux. Yeah. Anyway.
I don't know. Audiences, help. What do you think?
What are your thoughts? Can you, like, if someone can shed light on this, do you have an opinion? Is it backed up by facts, or is it just whatever you think? Let us know. Because like I said, little Gisela always assumed it was just Tux saving Sailor Moon, because that's what knights do. They save princesses.
Yeah.
But older, more cynical Gisela is like CSIing this. Is looking at the trajectory of the ice shard and where everyone was standing. So I'm happy to just not bring this up as a moon moment. I do not want us to have a moon moment on record that, like, actually he was not saving her, in fact. So, but I did want to bring it up because it was something that struck me as odd.
Yeah, definitely. Food for thought.
I have a moon moment in the next episode that it happens in the Deke version. And it actually, the same moon moment thing happens in the following episode. Mm-hmm. So, we can move on to the next episode, unless you have something for this one.
I don't have anything else for this one. I just want to point out that, again, they are in an elevator. Like, Mamoru and Usagi always somehow end up in an elevator together. And also, Mamoru, you are so stupid. Why do you keep falling for, let's just put out all of our rainbow crystals out, you can trust us. Oh, ho, ho, ho. Like, Mamoru, babe, do you not see the situation that you are in? Like, please, at least try to have a little bit of caution, These people you're literally bleeding.
Trap, but if it seems... like, you just need to have that Admiral Akbar line play over and over again.
I was just like, please, Mamoru. But other than that, I was just really kind of... So it feels like everyone just forgot that Mamoru and Rei are dating, and they're just so surprised that Rei is all like, oh my god, like, Mamoru, like, is he okay? And everyone's all like, like, Usagi, like, it makes sense that Usagi is really torn up about Mamoru / Tuxedo Mask being gone and disappeared. But literally just everyone forgot that Rei and Mamoru were dating. Like,
so that is my moon moment, actually. And the one that like crosses episodes in the Deke version. So if we want to go ahead and
go for it. This is a good lead
to that. So at the very beginning of the episode 35, so it's like the second part of this two-part. At the very beginning, all of the Senshi are standing there, and you know, they're like, oh my gosh, she's the Moon Princess. And they realize, you know, they're prince and princess, and they were in love, and blah, blah, blah. Ami says, oh, Mars, I'm so sorry. You must feel terrible. Because she's recognizing that, well, dang. You know, like, ooh, dang. That's not great. But here's the line that quote-unquote absolves Usagi and Mamoru from any hard feelings. Rei says, but I guess they were meant to be long before Darien and I. For those of you who have blocked it out or unaware, Darien is the name of Mamoru in the Deke version. So she completely, like, lets go of it, basically. I mean, for the most part, in that episode, that's pretty much it, all you get. There's one section where when Usagi wakes up, again, this is the Deke version, she says, where's Tuxedo Mask? Did you abandon him? Like, because the girls are all together, and they're in a different place, and Rei says, of course not, the Negaverse took him. So, you know, I could read that as her being frustrated, like, no, we wouldn't have left him. You know, not just because he was maybe an ally, but also because they know that he's Mamoru, and they wouldn't have left him because he's dating Rei. But it also comes back in the hairdresser episode, because also in the Deke version, Lita asks Rei if she's okay with all of it. So I had those sections as a moon moment, because the girls, they're getting hit with all of this new information, like, oh my gosh, Usagi's the Moon Princess. Who would have saw that coming? You know, like, everyone. The show broadcast it for how many episodes? But they're getting hit with all of this stuff. Oh my god, Usagi is the Moon Princess. Oh my gosh, Mamoru's Tuxedo Mask, and he's also a prince, and memories are coming back. Yeah. Also, we just met Sailor V, who is Sailor Venus, and all of this stuff, but Ami recognizes, Mars, are you okay? And Lita does the same thing. Lita, Mako, does the same thing in the next episode.
I was going to point that out as, like, a mini moment, because literally everyone just completely forgot that there's a lot of stuff happening, and the fact that Mako was able to see that Rei was kind of dealing with it in a different way than the other girls were just kind of touched me. I was like, okay, I don't know if it would be a moon moment.
This is sort of different because it doesn't involve the, like, making sure Rei is okay, but also in the second part of the two-parter episode, also in the Deke version, Ami says, so this is when Usagi's kind of breaking down, and she's crying, and she's like, I don't want any of this. She says, I can barely handle being Sailor Moon. I can't do this too. Ami says, come on, you guys, let her be for a while. This is Serena, and this is a big deal.
Yes. I put that as a mini moment, because completely valid. Usagi's reaction and outburst is just, I would probably be doing the same thing. Like, I would be super overwhelmed. Everything's happening at once. We're in the middle of a literal fight. Like, there's blood. Tuxedo Mask is gone. Like, our ally is gone. We're trapped in this weird two-dimensional, otherworldly place. Like, I would be freaking out. I would be crying, and I'd be like, I don't want to do this anymore. But all the girls were like, girl, you have to. This is your duty. And I really thought it was commendable that Ami was saying, I actually wrote down, let's be patient with Usagi. Which, yeah, like, she understood that Usagi needs the time to process, and any I feel like any other person would have that same reaction of, this is way too much, this is way too overwhelming, I don't want to do this anymore. And the whole Rei slapping Usagi too, and being like, you know, like, pull yourself together, but a slap of, maybe it was probably a little bit of anger, but it was also like a pull yourself together, like, you just focus on what we need to do in the moment and we will get through this kind of thing. So I don't know, I put that as a mini moment.
Her slapping,
Ami.
Right?
No, Ami her. Being like, let's be patient with Usagi.
Yeah, I will say, people hate Rei for that slap. And I think it's ridiculous, because it's not like it's a slap out of anger. You know, like you said, I consent maybe a little bit, but it's you need to focus. Because, yeah, none of them should be processing anything right now. They are stuck in this dimensional zone. Let's just get out of here first, and then we can go and have milkshakes and process everything that we just learned. So I feel like they shouldn't be doing any of this processing at all. But yeah, it's probably worse for Usagi, because it's always questionable how much of their past lives that they remember. In the manga, it seems like they get pretty much everything back. But it's always kind of up in the air how much they remember in this anime. And, I mean, she obviously remembers, she gets insta-loved in the face. That's because that's really what it is. Like, she's like, oh my god, I'm this princess, and I'm getting these memories, and also I'm having all of these sudden feelings for this dude that I don't like.
Yeah, exactly. Like, imagine absolutely hating someone for, like, months. It has to have been months at this point, right? I don't know if it's been a year. And then all of a sudden, like, getting these feelings of, like, am I in love with this person? That is a roller coaster of emotions. Plus finding out she has just been appointed leader, and she just met this person that she's been idolizing. She's been playing video games of her, in all of her spare time. She's been collecting merch, and now she's the Moon Princess, where from the get-go they've been trying to find. So it's like, that slap was kind of welcome. And, Rei probably could have delivered it without the slap. But in that moment, I think everything was just so heightened. I think that was the only thing that would have gotten through to Usagi and been like, look.
I think at first, you're absolutely right. Like, it's so heightened that she's just so... I think in that moment, it's so angry. But, I mean, I'm fine with the slap, but I think in that moment, Usagi did need that grounding. And, like, people don't seem to care about the fact that Usagi slapped her brother when he was possessed by the Chinella. So, I mean, and I think it happens... I think Uranus slaps Usagi at one point. I don't know. My brain's getting fuzzy. There are a couple other slaps, I think, in this series. But yeah, going back to... maybe... Should we just make Ami a moon moment for this episode?
Okay, so I do have my second moon moment is in this episode. And it would be Usagi choosing to fight after this breakdown. And after all of this is... she's, like, trying to process everything. All of this is coming at her. She just got slapped by Rei. The girls are like, you have to do this. Like, this is your duty. And she's like, I don't want to. But Usagi still chooses to fight, despite all of this kind of overwhelming emotions and overwhelming situation. Is this a big enough for a moon moment? Or does this go back to the whole duty thing? But she was literally going to give up her duty. Like, that's what she wants. That's what she wanted at that moment. And she kind of just pushed that to the side and was like, no, I'm going to fight.
So I'm glad I waited, because I was going to argue that I thought it was more of a duty thing, that she has to fight because she's Sailor Moon. But your point about she literally just said she didn't want to do this, And this is also when she sees her friends laid out on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a whole other thing that's a little frustrating. Like, I can see Jupiter and Venus getting laid out because they didn't understand Kunzite's attack at that point. But then Mars is just like, I'm gonna throw fire at him, and yeah, that's, even though it's gonna go the exact same way as with Jupiter and Venus, I'm gonna do that. I think what would have been more impactful, and I'm gonna try to not go into headcanon fanfiction-y stuff, as much anymore, but I think it would have been more impactful had Jupiter and Venus gone down, and the girls realize our attacks aren't working on him. We need to retreat and regroup. And so they have to leave Jupiter and Venus. She's our princess. We have to protect her. And so Mars and Mercury grab her and they drag her out of the room. And then have Kunzite come after them. And then one by one, Mars and Mercury go down. And that's when Usagi says, no more, no one else is going down for me. And that's when she decides to, step up and fight, and she blasts Kunzite away. And, it's basically what happens at D Point at the end of the series. Everyone, spoiler alert, everyone dies for Usagi, and then she's like, I gotta keep going, I can't let their sacrifice be in vain. And so this would be kind of a dress rehearsal for that. I gotta be honest, I forgot why we got on this topic. Oh, your Usagi stepping up. Yeah. So originally I was just gonna say it's her duty, but when you said she literally was just saying that she didn't want to do this.
And this is the most adamant she's been, because before she's always been like, oh, I don't really want to do this. I don't think this is for me. This time she was really like, I'm gonna quit. I do not want this at all. This is... Mm-hmm. This is too much. I don't want it. I want to be a normal girl.
Well, something she says that, I really wish the show had built this up a little bit more, but when she wakes up and she's kind of throwing her tantrum, for lack of a better word, she says, I'm sick of fighting. That past life has nothing to do with me. What if you all end up like Mamoru? I loved everything she said, because it could have been, if it had been built up in the show a bit more, it would have been just amazing. Because if we had seen her grow as Sailormoon throughout the show, and I think she has, but it's very haphazard. Sometimes she's amazing and flipping over Yoma, but other times she's like, blah! But I think if we had seen her sort of be this clumsy Sailor Moon, and then Luna gives her the moonstick and gives her the talk, you need to be the leader, and then you see her start trying to be the leader, then it would be great in this moment to have her say, I can barely handle being Sailor Moon. I'm so tired of this fighting. I was hoping we would be done at some point. But now that I'm the Moon Princess, I can't just disengage from this anymore. I'm in it to win it. And winning it is ruling the Earth. Crystal Tokyo is the end goal for that. I loved what she said. I don't think it was set up quite as well as it could have been.
I really liked this outburst from Usagi, because it was completely valid. That's exactly how I would have reacted. And the fact that she basically stands by that until she's like, oh, no, I'm gonna fight, because everyone's trying to give up their lives for me. No, I'm going to fight.
So yeah, lots of stuff in this episode. So agree, Usagi's hey, I'm back deserves to be a moon moment. And are we saying that Ami should just be a moon moment in the Deke version
Deke
Ami?
dub, Ami.
Amy should be a moon moment.
Yes.
So, alright. So, let's move on to the next episode, which sees so many... Kunzite has the best plans out of all of the generals. This one is so high-tech, and the other is so low-tech.
It was so high-tech.
So, like, I don't know. So, first off, I just have to say that in the Japanese version, I forgot to write it down, but it's someone very famous. It's like their salon. It's like their name. In the Deke version, it's called Slick Chick's Beauty Salon. It's so 90s. I love it. I'm also a little offended by the title, but... anyway, sorry, I had to say that. I had to put that out there first.
Oh no, that gives me like the same vibes as like Moist. Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I don't have anything for this episode, but I have two things that I did want to bring up before we move on. First off, I just looked. I have more than two things that I wanted to bring up for this episode. I'll go through them really quickly. First off, this might be the only episode we see Usagi's hair down.
Right? I was like, dang.
I think there may be one other episode, but I think this is the only episode.
Yeah.
So there was that. I just have DNA written in my notes.
DNA. Sorry, the BTS fangirl in me just came out.
Mina has only just met Usagi, but it's nice that she's going to try to, like, I don't know, cheer her up, kind of get to know her, make her feel better, because they do have a lot in common in the sense that Usagi was all by herself when she became Sailormoon.
Yeah.
So was Sailor V.
Yeah.
So, like, they do have a lot in common, and I wish they had played with that a little bit more, or, like, brought it up a little bit more.
Yeah.
The fact that they know what it's like to be on their own.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Tuxedo Common comes, and he's evil, and he's like, even roses have thorns.
I
was
patronizing like, what the hell are you talking about? He said something about, women's friendships. I forgot to write the quote down, but women's friendship being fragile. I was like, bro, what are you even saying right now? Like,
yeah, it's like, get the F out of here. It's such a weird thing. Like, I don't know. It's almost like he's trying to sow the seeds for them to break up.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make any sense.
No, it's kind of like, you know how, it's not as bad, but you know how male writers describe women in romance novels?
Oh, yeah.
It's like, you're trying to do something that you clearly do not have any experience or looked into it further, and you're trying to just, like, shove yourself into that space. Maybe no.
Oh, sorry I'm taking so long on this episode. The last thing. At the very end, Usagi gets super happy. Even though it's like, oh my god, Tuxedo Mask is evil. How is Usagi going to react? She gets really excited, and she says something like, I'm so glad Tuxedo Common is safe. They must have tricked him. I'll turn him back with the power of love. Which is exactly, like, what happened and happens. Like, they did sort of trick him. They brainwashed him. And she does turn him back with the power of love. That is literally what happened. So, good for Usagi for knowing the future. Oh, she also... What episode was that? She's like, I'm gonna be married before I'm 25. Yes, she is married before she's 25. But yes, please, let's continue to the next episode.
Mina, she just met, I know we just had the hair episode, but there's something, they're all at the temple, all the girls, and Luna and Artemis are there, and they're griping about the fact that Usagi isn't princess-like enough, and Mina, like, says, what's wrong with the way Usagi is right now? And I really like that Mina was kind of standing up for Usagi and being like, no, guys, like, there is no quote-unquote proper way to be a princess. This is Usagi as a princess. We have to remember that, like, she is reincarnated. She isn't still the same princess. So accept her for who she is and stop trying to mold her into what your idea of a princess should be. And I think at the end, too, Usagi says, I want to be a princess on my own terms. And I love the fact that Mina brought this up very, very beginning, like from the get-go, and kind of pushing back on, like, Artemis and Luna, who have been like, no, like, Usagi is not princess material at all. And I thought it was a mini-moon moment.
Well, I actually had Usagi's decision at the end to become her own princess as a moon moment. Because, yeah, it frustrated me this episode, especially Artemis, like, I kept wanting to just yell at him, like, what duties is princess? Her kingdom is gone. With the exception of, like, protecting the silver crystal from bad guys, she really doesn't have any duties. And, like, maybe using it to protect innocent people. But she doesn't really have any duties. Like, I don't know why he's so... And, like, Luna, to a lesser extent, too, I guess. What duties? And so Mina saying that... Yeah, I did have that written down. What's wrong with how Usagi is? I think maybe it would have made more sense coming from someone else rather than Minako. Because she has just met everyone.
I feel like it would have made more of an impact if Rei had said it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, or even if you wanted to say something like, since Minako hasn't, been with the team for very long, like maybe she does say, "What's wrong with how Usagi is?" And everyone pipes up and sort of says, "Well, she's lazy," or "She's flaky," or saying all this stuff, but then come back to say, "But she's our Usagi. Yeah. She's our princess." What's wrong with that? She did stand up to Kunzite and defeat him. I think, is it Artemis who says something like only a true princess can activate the silver crystal?
Yeah, I think it was
Artemis.
Again,
it's like,
what's
a true princess?
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, by the purest definition of a true princess, she is a princess, so she is a true. So, that whole thing was a little frustrating, and so I don't think I didn't really give Minako a mini moon moment for it, but I gave Usagi the moon moment of her saying, "I'm gonna become my own princess," and then you can remove princess and put anything else in there. I'm gonna become my own artist. I'm gonna become my own writer. I'm gonna become my own worker. I thought it was a moon moment, because she tries to do it the right way. The right way doesn't work for her, so she's gonna make her own way work. So, also, as an aside, I just love seeing Usagi be good at something, and she is heckin' good at frisbee.
Yeah.
It was so I now have this great image of all of the scouts, like even the outers. They decide they're going on a beach weekend.
Beach episode.
And her and Haruka get into this super intense ultimate frisbee match because Haruka doesn't understand. Because by the time they come around, I don't think she really uses her tiara. So, Usagi just kind of maybe wipes the floor with Haruka, or at least gives her, a run for her money in terms of points. I have no idea how ultimate frisbee works, by the way.
Or frisbee golf. I just see them all surrounding, breaking off into teams, and then Usagi absolutely dominating in frisbee golf.
Yeah. I played Quidditch in college.
Me too!
Not ultimate frisbee. I just love seeing Usagi being so good at this. Being so good at something, especially since she's not great at anything else. But yeah, I do like this episode.
I also love the fact that when Endymion and Kunzite were arguing, Usagi goes up to the Yuma and is like, "Do you want some coffee?" as a distraction. I was like, and she falls for it too. I was like,
I recommend watching the Viz dub, if for no other reason, just for the scene of Kunzite showing up and being like, "What do you think you're doing, Tuxedo Common?" The just them going back and forth, and there's this really funny line that I'm not going to spoil because it's one of those things that it's happening off screen, So the dub people can write whatever they want because they don't have to match the lips. So I recommend watching that like, the Viz dub is pretty good. I will admit the Viz dub is pretty good, but there are some episodes that are just like, mwah, chef's kiss, and this is one of them. So I recommend watching that. Do you think that my moon moment should be a moon moment, or should it just be a mini moon moment?
Have we discussed coupling moments together? Because are we just going to say Usagi is the moon moment? Or are we talking about making Usagi being her own kind of princess as the moment?
I don't know. Because I feel like they're related, but at the same time, when Mina says that, it doesn't really go anywhere. If there had been a scene like I had described, then I would say absolutely. Like, it's a moon moment for all the girls. But I don't know, because we talked about the... in Ami's introduction episode, there was a scene that we said that it only comes up once.
Right.
And if it was more of a thing, then it would be a moon moment. And so I don't know if that might apply here, since Mina brings it up, and it's a great point, and I think it sets the tone for the episode. But nothing comes of it then. It's like Usagi's own decision.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, important. It's not Artemis and everyone else saying, you know what, Usagi, you're just, you're perfect the way you are. You don't have to try to become this ideal princess. And like I said, I think it's good that Usagi comes to this on her own.
Definitely feel like it should be something, but I just don't know if it is a moon moment or a mini moon moment. I'm pretty torn.
I want to stand by the Usagi deciding to become her own princess as a full-on moon moment. That is my stance. I don't know about the Mina thing. I think it's definitely something that should be noted, because like I said, I think it sets the tone for the episode.
Yeah, but there wasn't really anything. She didn't take it and run with it like Usagi did.
She was just like testing the waters with that statement.
Okay, so I'm gonna say that Mina being like, "What is wrong with Usagi?" isn't a mini moon moment, but I'm still on the fence on Usagi. What do you think, audience? Do you think we should have kept Mina's statement of being like, "What's wrong with Usagi?" as a mini moon moment? Do you think Usagi wanting to be her own kind of princess should be a full-on moon moment, or should it be a mini moon moment? Let us know.
Also, before we wrap up, I do want to say that, as I've said in previous episodes, I've been watching Crystal / reading the manga as we've been going through, and I don't talk about it a lot, and I'll probably talk about it even less, because it's at this point that the original anime kind of takes a hard left and just waves at the source material as it drives away. Everything changes after this point, for the most part. There are a couple things that they bring in, but it's all completely different. But I did have some things that I wanted to bring up from... I think I ended up watching 4 episodes of Crystal. That was the rough correlation to the episodes that we watched this time. And a few things. It's like after everything he's been taken, and she's been in her room for like a couple days, I think, and girls have come over to try to cheer her up. In the original anime, Usagi's kind of sleepwalking through this section, and she gives us that really delightful volleyball clip that's so satisfying to watch for some reason. But Crystal Usagi is close to having a breakdown. It's super serious. And once Luna says, well, let's go to the moon and get any information that we can, Usagi says, I will never be a tragic princess again. It sort of correlates to, we were talking about Usagi saying that she didn't want to be a princess, didn't want any of this stuff, but then saying, well, I have to protect people. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm the only one that can do this. I have to do it because I don't want people to be taken away from me. And so it's sort of the same thing. But I loved I will never be a tragic princess again. Mm. Thought it was a great line. She also has a line that's really fascinating because it's like a weird thing that happens in the manga, and so they put it in crystal. When the girls come over and they open the door to her room, her hair has grown, like her hair is like 20 feet long or something. Like, it's insanely long. And she says that it's been growing since that night and it doesn't stop. And the girls sort of hand wave it as, oh, well, you had really long hair when you were a princess. So your body's changing to reflect, like, the memories or something. And Usagi says, my body's changing with these memories. Like, it's like losing my identity. Like, not only am I getting all of these memories back, but my body is changing in response, and it's like I'm becoming someone else completely.
That's terrifying.
I listened to, so I've mentioned them on the podcast before, Guided by a New Podcast. They are a Sailor Moon podcast. I don't remember what episode, so apologies. But they were talking about, according to Naoko Takeuchi, Sailor Moon is chubby. You wouldn't know that by her art or any of the anime or something, but she says she always intended Sailor Moon to be a chubby bunny, basically. It's why she eats so much. It may have been a question someone posed to them, or it may have been something they came up with themselves, but the idea that what if Usagi, just normal 14-year-old, she's a little chubby, doesn't matter. But when she turns into Princess Serenity was taller and thinner, more waifish. How would that screw with your body image and perception?
Oh, yeah.
And it was just such a fascinating thing, especially, like, when I heard her say this line, I thought back to that episode. And then I was trying to think about it in, like, a trans identity kind of way, which I immediately stopped doing because I have no experience with anything like that, and so I did not want to step on anyone's toes about an experience that I have no experience with. So, one thing I did want to bring up, and I totally forgot about it while we were discussing the episode where she is revealed as Princess Serenity. So, if you are a fan of Sailor Moon, there's a website called missdream.org. They are a Sailor Moon translation site. They don't translate the mangas because that is illegal. They translate anything related to Sailor Moon. So if Takeuchi gave an interview in 1997, then they transcribe it on their site. I only recently found it, so I don't know much about its history. It's been on the interwebs for a long time, and they're still updating it. They're doing really fantastic work on it. And I will definitely put this in the show notes. They have a page dedicated to Naoko Takeuchi, obviously, about her life. They have this really cool interactive timeline. But they also have a list of the inspirations that she used for Sailor Moon. And something that I did not know was that Takeuchi is a really big fan of fashion. And so a lot of the outfits from Sailor Moon and a lot of the images that she used are pulled directly from actual fashion shows and print modeling. They have a really good collection of the real life version versus what Takeuchi drew. I highly recommend you check it out. It is very cool. But upon looking at this page, made me realize that Usagi's princess dress is based on a real dress.
Ooh.
So I will also put these in the show notes. And I'm showing these to Gilsey.
Oh, that's so pretty.
Obviously, slight changes. But for the most part, it is a real dress. It's from like a 1992 collection. I thought that was so cool. The fact that her princess dress is based on a real dress. Very cool.
Yeah, that's gorgeous.
Lead us out, Gilsey.
That's going to do it for this episode. Our next episode will cover episodes 38 through 42. Check out our social media on Twitter and Instagram at Moon Moment Pod. Don't forget to check out our website at moonmomentpodcast.com. There you'll find show notes and transcripts of every episode. Guys, I'm sorry, I don't mean to sound so spacey. But I just keep thinking of that really cool dress. I don't know, I'm like, should I do a fashion thing? Anyway, Drusilla.
We had a lot to talk about during this episode, so let us know what your Moon Moment musings are. You know, do you agree? Do you disagree? Did we miss something that you think we should know? We definitely would love to hear from you. And of course, you may just get a shout out. If you'd like to support the podcast, please rate, review, share, and subscribe. It really helps Moon Moment stay afloat amidst all of the great Sailor Moon podcasts that are out there. I'm Drusilla.
And I'm Gilsey. We'll see you, Moon. Bye.
Bye.